So good morning, everyone. My name is Shane Moresco. I'm the Assistant Director of Enrollment Management and Strategic Initiatives here in the Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. And joined today by Dr. Tracy Bonfield, the Program Director of the Regenerative Medicine and Entrepreneurship Program, and also our content expert for today's session covering red light therapy.
Good morning, everybody.
So just a little bit of background on how this session will flow. I read background off the screen there, but so introduction, which we just covered. So just a little bit of background on CWRU and the NCRM. Then we'll dive right into the science behind red light therapy. A brief overview of the application process for our master's program, which is still accepting applications for fall, if anyone is interested. And then we will have time for a live Q&A. So speaking of the live Q&A, down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Q&A feature or a chat feature. Either one of those is fine to pop your questions into. Throughout, we will monitor that and cover all the questions at the end. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Bonfield and enjoy the presentation, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to give this overview of red light therapy and regenerative medicine, but I want to start with, the concept or the standing of Case Western Reserve University's School of Medicine. We're the 16th in the nation and the first listed in Ohio. So when you think about that in the context of the regenerative field, this is probably part of the reason. So the National Center for Regenerative Medicine, which we call for NCRM for short, is a platform that facilitates the translation of research, clinical applications, the commercialization of these regenerative medicine products, including things like tissue engineering and stem cell therapeutics, from really the bench innovation all the way to the clinic and innovation into commercialization. It was really, NCRM was initiated in 2004 with the support from the Ohio Frontier Fund, which was led by our own Dean Gerson, that led to our partnerships with other amazing affiliates, such as University Hospitals with Dr. Van Biesen, Cleveland Clinic with Dr. Timothy Chan, and Metro Health Medical Center with Dr. William C. So let me talk about red light therapy, this new science behind the skin craze that we're all hearing about. And I think we've probably all heard about its use in sort of the dermatological components. But let's get into some of the nitty-gritty behind the therapy and what does it mean in regenerative medicine. So red light therapy it's a low wavelength red near infrared light. And what its job is to stimulate cellular activity. It's also called photomodulation. And the reason for that is that stimulation or that low level of this light, which is in this infrared area, low wavelength, it energizes mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells, and by its nature, that stimulates cell growth, function, but also your own endogenous repair mechanism. So it's really touted for boosting collagen, accelerating wound healing, and reducing inflammation and pain. And as you can see from this figure, traditionally it's been used a lot in the skin realm, so it helps stimulate angiogenesis, induces collagen synthesis, reduces inflammation, and promotes the synthesis of ATP and growth factors, which are actually pretty important in terms of the healing process. So when we think of the history of photoimmunomodulation or photomodulation, I call it immunomodulation because I'm an immunologist, and part of the mechanisms by which this technology works is through manipulating sort of the immune function of cells. And so you can start with a thing called helotherapy. So this was 1400 BC treatment of various skin diseases. So they were really smart even then, and then used it in 1890 for the treatment of lupus vulgaris, which is really very complicated with some skin issues. And then moved on to, what we hear or what we've all experienced, or at least a lot of us have, for laser biostimulation and treatment of malignancies in murine models, but of course it's used in the clinic now. And then photomodulation is used for a variety of different tissue engineering purposes for the same concepts, same context of activating ATP, inducing cell proliferation, and mediating sort of this regeneration component. So mechanistically, I have a basic, cell that's here. The photons are absorbed by the endogenous photoreceptors within the cell, and it causes the induction of a mitochondrial cytochrome C oxidase. So it's a lot of mumbo jumbo garbage, I guess, but it's not, because this is actually hugely important. Nitric oxide is part of the healing process and important in anti-inflammation and a variety of other downstream things that we know is relevant to a lot of different diseases. And so all of this ultimately affects cellular proliferation, migration, differentiation, and it promotes efficient wound healing. And not just at the skin. We know that can also do that beyond the skin in other settings. So the benefit that's been shown up to this point, so this is a great article by Mosquero, effects of photomodulation in ceramics. This is 2025. Skin health promotes collagen and elastin production, so helps healing. It's used in psoriasis and a variety of other skin dermatological issues. Pain management through the increased blood flow and reduces muscle or joint inflammation, which helps reduce pain. There's hair growth. It's been shown to stimulate hair follicles and treat hair loss. It's also been shown, especially in skin, to promote healing and minimize inflammation post, treatment for a variety of skin abnormalities. Other areas that you might not be aware of is that, it can influence what's called Virchow's triad, which is part of this process mechanistically. It has to deal with our hemostasis, or how our blood works, and thrombosis, which is kind of the process of clotting. It influences nitric oxide release, which is, again, this is a great mechanism for host defense. Endothelial cell function. So the endothelial cells are part of your vasculature. And so it helps quiet things. So it keeps them from being sticky for thrombotic type of events. And of course, then that also imposes platelet activation. All of these can change vascular tone, which of course also helps. So the whole process ameliorates sort of this thromboinflammation, reducing this whole process that can be quite a benefit in different scenarios. In eye care, this is amazing. It slows myopia progression. There's tons of clinical trials trying to use this technology in kids with myopia. It can protect retinal cells and glaucoma. Think about that for individuals who are suffering from that disease. I've also seen that there's some attempts to begin to explore its potential in models of macular degeneration. So that's like a disease that there's not a lot of other types of treatments for resolution. Overall, it reduces inflammation and can also relieve that dry eye syndrome that can be sort of part of these issues, or it can be an add-on or just an independent symptomology. So red light therapy and regenerative medicine, it can help with myoblast differentiation, so repair of muscles. It promotes engraftment of skin grafts. So think about burn patients or other scenarios where you might need a graft. Promotes cartilage regeneration in your skin, helps repigmentation. So that can be very helpful. Scars can be very disfiguring, and people can be very uncomfortable about that. Mineralization, it can induce a mineralization of mesenchymal stem cells to help create collagen and other types of connective tissue, which may be very important in engineering principles. It can attenuate hypersensitivity and allergy, and it can regulate pluripotency in these induced pluripotent cell manufacturing. And that's a very complex field, but it can participate in creating more efficiency within that IPS manufacturing. And it can also decrease cellular aging. So you can imagine, the focus on, minimizing the aging process or slowing it down. So, how does this relate to research at Case Western Reserve and NCRM? I mean, there's a variety of different ways that it can be applied. I give some examples here, whether they're used in the treatment of our best friends or in other types of scenarios like sepsis or joint repair. Biophotonics for drug development because it can activate the release of different drugs, so it can promote there. And you can see all these other different pieces that ultimately can be addressed using this light therapy as an approach, from increasing mental clarity, increasing blood flow, decreasing anxiety and depression, reducing musculoskeletal and nerve pain, enhancing cellular repair, improving joint function, enhance nerve regeneration. How cool is that? Improve sleep patterns, enhance immune function, increase energy levels, improve muscle performance and repair. You can imagine like a knee replacement and using the light therapy to improve sort of the recovery process and to enhance patient experience and to improve outcomes there. Enhanced soft tissue healing, relief from arthritis, and release from a bunch of tendinopathies. In my own lab, I actually have used this red light therapy as a photomodulation to understand the immune mechanism, since I focus a lot on that, utilizing ways in which we can alter immune activation and kind of quiet it down in scenarios of chronic inflammation. And we've done a lot of work utilizing this technology in diseases that are related to autoimmunity. So what does this mean ultimately for the future of regenerative medicine? Well, it's just really the tip of the iceberg, because red light therapy is certainly not the only type of innovation to be incorporated into regenerative medicine. Honestly, the regenerative medicine market is expected to be worth $194.9 billion by 2032, up from $34.6 billion in 2022. I mean, think about that. The job market, the impact on medicine, the impact on a variety of different sectors in our society. So there's this growing need, rise in chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, heart disease, a need and demand for these regenerative medicine applications continues to increase in something like red light therapy. It is so non-invasive, right? It's not that big of a deal, and it has a huge safety profile. So there's certainly emerging markets. Interest in development of regenerative medicine has begun across the globe, not just in the United States, and there are huge markets within Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. So the program is it all, this Masters of Science in Regenerative Medicine and Entrepreneurship that I direct it's a 1.5 to 2 year program, although I've had students complete it in 1 year as well. So it sort of depends on what the students want to do. I'm happy to work with them. Part-time enrollment is also an option. A lot of employees have used that. It's highly customizable to your career goals through elective course selection and this conversation that we have about, where do you see yourself and what is the passion that you see in terms of your application of this field. We have a lot of partnerships with world-renowned hospital partners, both within Cleveland, such as the Cleveland Clinic, but also outside of Cleveland, like University of Cincinnati, University of Pittsburgh, a variety of different hospitals like St. Jude. We have a lot of different interactives across the US and some abroad even. Students can see regenerative medicine practices both in our own institutions and our cancer center, Cleveland Clinic, Metro Health. We have a vector center. We have a GMP facility, and also through active site visits to biotech companies that we have very close to the Cleveland area, including Appiona, Viscus, Trailhead. And so these are great organizations to get to see what that bench to bedside to commercial looks like. And then the incredible capacity to embedded within RGME and also as a potential for growth within RGME is micro-credentialing throughout the program. So, for example, we have the Fusion certificate that can be granted from the CWRU School of Law, and we're working on Weatherhead School of Management. We've had 2 students actually end up with a BS and MS, a BS, MS, and an MBA, I should say, is what I meant to say. So Shay, you want to talk about the applying to the program?
Yeah. So applying to the program is really simple. So first step, you will navigate to our webpage and there's a big apply now button. Click that. It's going to take you to the application portal on our website. Within there, you'll fill out your typical application forms, name, address, phone number, that sort of thing. And then you're going to upload these materials. That's going to be a statement of purpose. So this is a chance to share more about you and tell us why you're interested in the program. What do you want to do with the degree in regenerative medicine and entrepreneurship? As Dr. Bonfield mentioned, the program is really customizable. So we like hearing stories and building a diverse cohort so that everyone in it kind of has a different approach to pursuing regenerative medicine. We will also need a current copy of your resume or CV, as well as transcripts from any and all colleges attended. So unofficial transcripts are fine for the application process. Should you be admitted and accept your admission, that's when we would need the official one sent to Case Western from your undergrad institution. Why I say from any and all is sometimes we run into a student took college courses or college credit in high school, or maybe they took classes during the summer at a community college. If it counted towards your undergraduate degree, our School of Graduate Studies is going to want a transcript for it. So I just like to be upfront with that so that nothing holds up your admission decision. We also ask for at least 2 professional letters of recommendation. Most often these come from an academic advisor, a professor, or in some cases a supervisor. Someone that can really speak to, how you'll be as a student and your interests and abilities. If you are an international candidate that did not complete your degree in the US or at an institution where English was the primary language of instruction, or your home country English is not the first language, that is when we would need a TOEFL or IELTS to be submitted. And then lastly, we don't put it on this slide because it's not a formal interview in the sense of what you might think of when you think of a grad school interview, but you will meet with Dr. Bonfield and I just to have a conversation. It allows Dr. Bonfield to better explain the nitty-gritty of the program. And, while that statement of purpose is great, that's 1 page. And we find that talking with applicants allows us to better understand, why they're interested in the program and what they want to do. So we do require that conversation to happen at some point before an admission decision is rendered. You can choose to reach out to us and have that conversation before you even submit an application. If you don't, we'll reach out to you to set up that meeting. So admissions timeline here so first to point out international candidates, this is a suggested deadline. So if anyone is on the call, you are still welcome to apply. Just note that visa processes have been slowed, we've been made aware of. So it would be more difficult to get you to start by August, but not impossible. The final deadline for anyone interested in starting with us this fall semester, or any fall semester for that matter, is August 1st. And we do offer a spring start, so that deadline for a spring start would be December 1st. And this is our final slide before we'll open it up for questions. Just to note, if you don't have my email or Dr. Bonfield's email, that is our general RGME email, which we also monitor, as well as a link to our website. If you haven't explored that yet, I highly recommend. There's a ton of information on there. Alumni success stories, more information on program costs, a lot of great information. So I highly recommend exploring the website. And then lastly, our LinkedIn. If you haven't connected with us on there and you are on LinkedIn, feel free to follow our page. We share stories as they relate to regenerative medicine in the news. So maybe it's not something that we're using for one of these in the news webinars, but still a really interesting story. We'll share it on there, as well as application deadlines and future events. So great place also to stay in touch with us. So with that, Dr. Bonfield, do you have anything else to add before we open it up for questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the LinkedIn and the website provides a lot of other resources too. So certainly both of them highlight a lot of our graduates, so the program is very customizable. So having a conversation with you allows me to already form in my head, where, who are great connections for you and help you network as an endpoint. And I think as a consequence of that, our graduates, go on to do lots of things from medical school, graduate school, to starting their own business and interfacing, with the FDA or NIH or, a variety of different things. It's sort of endless what the opportunities are, but you'll also be able to see that on the LinkedIn as well as the webpage.
Awesome. So yeah, with that, we're going to turn it over to our attendees. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, at the bottom of your screen, you should see either a chat feature or a Q&A feature. Either of those will work. If you want to just pop your questions in there, we are happy to answer them. So, floor is yours. I know at least one person has a question. Come on.
The red light therapy is a very cool technology. It's pretty non-invasive.
There we go. Got one question here. Is the program in person or is there an online component?
Some of the classes that you take will have some online components, but generally the majority of it is in person. We are working for an online version of components of the program that we're hoping to start in the fall. But these probably would be not the entire RGME programming, because part of the power of RGME is the capacity to take electives across the university. So the way the program is designed is you get to pre-describe for yourself, where those electives are coming from and what their discipline is. And so I can't say that every professor at the School of University at Case Western is going to be able to provide an online version. So I think it would be, you could probably pick out a lot of courses that do provide that option, but I don't really know what that looks like. We're in the process kind of figuring that all out.
How does stimulating the mitochondria reduce cellular aging? Would an increase in ATP result in increased metabolism?
Yes. So improved metabolism means improve oxygenation, right? And so as you're improving oxygenation, the whole metabolic process is a is a reparative process. And so the response of the mitochondria, it's able to produce these factors that help the cell to know or what to do to kind of move forward. There's a lot of issues looking at mitochondrial health in terms of especially aging and ways in which you can promote that process. Certainly, there's been some research in the area of like uh, you know, light therapy, if you think about people who have responses to long time without light, right? Long time without sunshine. It's kind of the same principle. It has a lot to do with the energy that you're getting based upon the metabolism that's associated with mitochondrial function. Mitochondrial function is relative to having some light source to be involved with it.
Next question here is, can red light therapy be applied beyond skincare, such as in wound healing, nerve repair, or regenerative medicine research?
Yes, yes, and yes. Yeah, because this is some of the work that I'm involved with. I have a couple partnerships, and yes, yes, and yes.
Can red light therapy be used only on surface level tissue like skin, or can a form of it penetrate tissue to reach internal organs?
There's great literature that suggests that red light therapy can induce some systemic positive effects, meaning some aspects. So if you think about it logistically, your skin has vasculature in there. If you shine it on your skin, these changes take place. They increase metabolism of the mitochondria, production of material. Depending upon that, those molecules could certainly not stay localized. They could get into the blood system and go elsewhere. So it is part of the technology to see, what does that mean and how do we improve that process? So one of the slides I showed had to do with activating pharmacological agents, right? Well, part of doing that is being able to provide activation of materials. There is a project that we're working on for delivery using a red light type of motif.
These are great questions. Keep them coming.
Traditionally, it's been used in things like psoriasis, dermatological issues, and for years, and there's a huge safety profile of it. But I think, that is something. So as I have applied it to a couple genetic diseases, one of the things you got to worry about is, does that, how does that alter, that response? So you always got to start back at baseline. So let's just compare beginning, and then we'll move on to utilizing it as more of a therapeutic.
Which areas of regenerative medicine have the greatest potential to improve treatment outcomes for chronic diseases?
Oh, great question. I think that's a really open-ended answer in terms of what's the both what that means. So if you're a scientist like me, what it means is, the variety of diseases that I work in. So I work in orthopedic diseases, I work in some autoimmune diseases, as I alluded to. I work in pulmonary diseases like CF and chronic pneumonia and asthma and other things. So, you know, these diseases are not the same. Their inflammation is not identical. And so the approach that we would use for regenerative medicine ultimately has to be designed to apply to that specific disease phenotype. That's the importance of making sure that there's a great connection for the outcome. But I would say, the the area is wide open for innovation and development. And that's part of the reason regenerative medicine is so logarithmic in terms of its growth and potential for students and people who are interested in redirecting. And they can even get on the other side of the science piece. Knowledge of the science piece helps them to be informed about helping to be a coordinator for a clinical trial. How do you talk to patients that you're consenting? How do you get yourself involved with CAR T therapy, which is, for leukemias? Don't we teach you how to do those kinds of things? Or you can learn how to be more actively involved with the regulatory component and learn what the FDA is about and what are all those pieces. That's not at the bench doing regenerative medicine, but it is needing some understanding of the background so that you are a huge advocate or somebody who's a watchdog, for things that need to move forward, know the questions to ask. And so this program is very open-ended for all of those kinds of opportunities, business strategies. You have to have a business strategy to take it from your bench to your bedside or to commercialization in your spin-off company, if that's what you want to do. And we have partnerships with incubator. We have an incubator right on our campus that provides opportunities for, students or faculty or whoever to, have a great idea and oh, I think I'll just start my own little company, and we help you in that process. We have great collaborators like with the Veal Institute of Entrepreneurship. They're part of our orientation and they teach in our classes and you learn a lot about that avenue too for development. So even if you want to be sort of a sideline in regenerative medicine, it still provides this great resource of hugely growing commercial medical health forum for people.
How does red light therapy work in treating depression and anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have a great answer for that. I mean, there's a lot of papers you could probably read in PubMed or even do a Google search. The concept is, this change in metabolism, and I'll give you a corollary to it. So when you go out and you run around the block really fast, it changes what? It changes your metabolism, gets your heart rate going, and it makes you feel better. Well, in some ways, right, light therapy also activates your metabolism, right? It's what we talked about. And so the concepts are kind of similar. How it's doing that, like in your brain and those other things, that's part of the research that's going on.
What are the most promising areas of regenerative medicine today besides stem cell therapy?
Yeah, so the most prominent are stem cell therapy or regenerative medicine is used for vaccine development, like COVID-19. The vaccine for that was based on regenerative medicine principles. The Ebola vaccine that we're all thinking about these days is also based upon regenerative medicine concepts. And there's drugs that are based on that for drug delivery systems. There are, generating new tissue bases that are not stem cell therapy, but is more like engineering principles. So regenerative medicine is a huge box of directives that can be applied to a lot of different areas. In my own work, I've been involved with developing a live knee where, we're utilizing stem cells to create, infrastructure for getting a better implant for being able to treat people who need joint replacements, or we want to use it in some other forum. You can use regenerative medicine in the context of better treatment for a variety of different diseases that utilizes external equipment. So if you used a product that's regenerative, then you wouldn't have to use a biomaterial, right? You can, instead of a biomaterial, you can actually use a created material. So there's companies that work on that area as well.
Now, Dr. Bonfield, I know someone asked on their registration a question in advance of what sets the RGME program apart from the MS in Biotechnology program?
Yeah, so the MSN Biotechnology is a great program too. I think the difference between ours is we're very integrated into the medicine and commercialization component. So it's the nuts and bolts from everywhere doing your innovation all the way through. And so that is like a linear line. So if you take my work, for example, so I have a research lab, we do a bunch of stuff in my lab. And some of the stuff ends up being super interesting to move forward towards the clinic or commercialization. But I got to know all those steps that go from here to there, right? And so the difference between biotech is you learn how to be in biotech, but you don't necessarily learn the entrepreneurship pieces. You can, because I believe you can learn some concepts of it, but in our GME, it's more of a medically applied application and growth in that component. I would say you probably have more technical interaction in biotechnology, meaning I believe some of the classes are also at the bench, like it's like taking a lab. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, so the Masters in Biotechnology, we also offer two of our courses. We offer two of our classes now have replaced two of their classes. We used to use two of the biotech classes for our course structure, and now we use ours, that we developed for the entrepreneurship pieces and commercialization. So I guess in some ways there's a lot of crossover.
Any other questions for us? These have been great. All right, then I will start wrapping this up here. But of course, if you're typing a question, please send it. But all that to say, Dr. Bonfield did mention some of the great facilities that we have here on campus. During the summer months, if you want to come visit campus to see our spaces, we can certainly work with you to try to set something up. Just please reach out in advance so that we can communicate what day that might work to have you come visit with us. We would love to show you around campus and have you explore Cleveland if you're not familiar with the area. And just one final reminder that applications are still open for fall 2026 with that final deadline of August 1st. I will say, though, if you are wanting to start with us this fall, the sooner you apply, the better. That just gives you more time to receive your admission decision. If you need to relocate, find housing near campus, and work with Dr. Bonfield to set up your classes for your first semester. So the sooner you can, the better, but August 1st will be that final deadline. And yeah, I see no other questions popping in. So with that, I will thank you all once again for joining us. I know that I learned a lot. So thank you to Dr. Bonfield for being our content expert on the red light therapy today. And we hope to chat with you all soon. I hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your summer.
Great to have you. Thank you.